Hi, this is me, Dr. Shweta. Welcome to part 3 or episode 3 of Chaucer's Prologue to the Canterbury Tales. In the previous episode, that was episode 2, we discussed the first few characters from the prologue. And in this section, we will meet the Guildsmen, a group of three people: the cook, the shipman, and the physician, who form the guildsmen or the people belonging to certain trade or certain profession. And we will also meet the most famous of all, the wife of Bath. This character is very interesting and most often asked in the exams. So together they show us how Chaucer captured the spirit of the medieval society, how Chaucer represented the medieval society to us. So stay tuned and keep watching the entire video to have a better understanding of all these four characters: three belonging to the Guildsmen group, and one separately, the wife of Bath. The guildsmen were the group of people who belonged to certain trade or profession. That is why they were called as the guildsmen. These were the people who had a skill, and they were gaining popularity and social status in medieval time period because of their profession, rising as new middle class. So they were rising as a new middle class because they were expert in certain trade or certain profession. Chaucer says about them, and I quote here: of own fraternity was the ale. That means they belonged to a guild like a trade union. So they came from a single place and from a single trade union, and they had a different profession. One was group, one cook, one was physician, and one was in another profession. Then he says, was shapely for to being an alderman. That means any one of them could become a city official, which means they looked very professional. They had the skills to rise above their social status, and they could earn a name for themselves and even become a city official also someday if they wanted. And then he says, for she would he were a mayor. That means their wives pushed them to rise in status. That means they came from the ambitious family background. Their family members, especially their wives, wanted them to rise in their social status through their hard work and through their profession and through their trade. That means they had a desire to become rich by their trade and earn money. So these quotes already hint at what? They hint at the ambition of the guildsmen or the people from certain trade or certain professions during that time. And also these quotes hint at the pride and a bit of social climbing in such kind of people who had a skill with them, or they were good at some profession in their lifetime. The guildsmen represented the new middle class of Chaucer's time. They are ambitious people, respectably dressed, but the real push comes from their wives. Chaucer's tone is here of gentle irony. That means he is criticizing them, but very gently, not in harsh terms. And he admires their rise, their ambitious nature, but also he mocks at their pretensions. That means the way they used to show themselves off. That is called pretension. So Chaucer is also, kind of gently nudging them or mocking them at their pretentious nature. So, what do these guildsmen represent? They show us the growth of trade guilds in the 14th century. That means the growth of trade unions in the 14th century. It was an age when wealth and politics were starting to matter more than the noble birth. That means how much wealth one person has, what is his political status. These things were more important to people during that time rather than what noble birth he or she belongs to. That means whose son or daughter the person is. These things were now taking a setback, whereas people were now more focusing on the kind of wealth certain person holds and what is his political status. So the guildsmen also reflect how women, or especially wives, they played a very hidden role in pushing the ambitions of their husbands who were perfect in one trade or the other. While talking about one of the guildsmen, that is the cook, Chaucer notes, or he says, but great harm was it, as it taught me that on his shine a mormal had he. That means the cook had an ulcer on his shin, on his leg basically, and he was a cook. And then further he says, well could he know a draught of London ale. That means he could judge the London ale or the London alcohol perfectly. He could, by taste or just by looking at it, could know which drink is which. So we see both his skills and his flaws side by side, because when Chaucer talks about the ulcer on his shin, that is a kind of disease on his leg, it also gives us an irony in the tone of Chaucer, where he criticizes them for their faults, for their drawbacks, but he also says that he could also tell which ale or which wine comes from which place in London. So that means he is also appreciating their good qualities. So that means these guildsmen, they came with their own good things and with their own critical flaws within them, and Chaucer is weighing both the things and presenting them to us. Further, he appreciates the cook. He says that the cook is talented and he can prepare delicious dishes. That means he is capable in his trade, he knows his work. But the ulcer on his leg, it becomes a disturbing image, because where a cook is having an ulcer, that means he is not very, noble with his profession. He is doing some harm, or cheating or defrauding people, maybe. So that ulcer, that disease, is the representative of his corruption somewhere. It is Chaucer's dark humor. You can say that it is a dark humor or satire by Chaucer on these people. Imagine a cook making white pudding but with an open sore or an open wound. And praise and ridicule, both the things, they go together while Chaucer is talking about these guildsmen. That is, he's also praising them, and the same time he's also ridiculing them for their flaws. The cook represents the urban food trade of London. He shows how tradesmen were valued, but also how Chaucer loved exposing the imperfections in these people, in these guildsmen. He reflects skills, but also impurity and lack of hygiene. Beside being a cook, he was not worried about his open wound, because the open wound may attract diseases, and the cook is, if he is cooking and serving people the open wound, that means the diseases can be transferred to other people, but he was least bothered. So it is a way of, criticizing the cook for his flaws, but also appreciating him for his talent. The second guildsman is the Shipman, and about him Chaucer says, the hot summer had made his hue all brown. That means his skin is brown color from long voyages. If somebody travels a lot, then his skin color changes, it gets a little brownish. So he is talking about the hard work or the long voyages that Shipman was involved into. And further he says, of nice conscience took he no keep. That means he doesn't care for morality, he doesn't care for what and how people will think about him. He is only concerned with earning more and more. And then he says, by water he sent him home to every land. That means he would literally drown the enemies, he would literally attack his enemies and drown them during his voyages, so that he can earn better profit than what his enemies would earn. So it shows the lack of conscience, the lack of moral values in the Shipman, who was also one of the professionals, a tradesman, a guildsman. Chaucer further describes the overall character and personality of the Shipman here. He says that the Shipman is rough, he is weather beaten. Weather beaten means he has traveled a lot, and it shows on his face with his brown skin and his hard face. And he is also experienced fellow, because since he has traveled so much, so he knows the world around. He knows every harbor, every port, every sea route. But he is also very ruthless. He is fearless in storms. He's not afraid of the storms, and he travels with confidence, and he is merciless in fights. As I told you, that he kills his enemies so that he can earn the entire profit. So Chaucer admires his skills, but he also underlines his lack of conscience, his lack of moral values. Now let us look at the medieval representation of the Shipman. He represents the growing sea trade of Chaucer's England. It Chaucer is trying to tell us that during the medieval time period when he lived, the sea trade of England was growing exponentially. It was growing very far and wide, but it also was leading to piracy, which was very common in the 14th century. So the Shipman is both dangerous for the other pirates, for the other people who are traveling by the ship, but he is also very important, very vital, because of these shipments, England was increasing its sea trade and its route via sea, and gaining access to the other countries. So it also shows England's maritime rise, that England was growing in its when it comes to the business via sea route with other countries. So it also shows us the economic rise of England during this time. The third guildsman is the physician, and he is the last one. Chaucer, about him, he says that he knew the cause of every rich melody. That means he could diagnose every illness. He was very perfect in his profession. He was a physician or a doctor. He kept that he ran in pestilence. That means he kept the money he made during the plague, because he knew that the plagues will come again and again, and he would be needing the money in case of adversity. So he was in love with money, and he used to treat people and ask for huge amounts. And for gold in physic is a cordial. For him, gold was the best medicine. That is physique. For gold in physic is a cordial means for him gold was the best medicine. That means it is a clear satire on the physician, that he considered money as the solution for everything. So it is a satire that for gold in physic is cordial. That means the best remedy or best treatment any man can have on this earth is to have more and more money, because the money is going to solve all their problems. That shows Chaucer's gentle satire on the greed of the physician, or the third guildsman that he was. Let us look at some of the more features or the personality traits of the physician. The physician is highly educated, expert in astrology also, and he is also expert in treating people and in the four humors. But Chaucer criticizes him for his greed. Instead of serving selflessly, he serves people only to get more and more wealth and more money. Knowledge is there with the physician, but his compassion is not there. It is absent. He is not compassionate and doesn't feel with heart for the poor people and doesn't treat anyone for free, but he uses his knowledge to earn more money. So Chaucer criticizes his greed. Through the character of the physician, the this character physician, Chaucer represents the learned professions of the age. But Chaucer shows how even medicine was corrupt by profit. How people who were in the profession of medicine, or treating people, even they were corrupt. So he reminds us of the exploitation during the Black Death, during the medieval period, when again and again the plagues were happening. The Black Death was coming. 3 or 4 times the Black Death came during Chaucer's time, and people like him, the physicians, they were also minting money, and rather not helping out of generosity, but helping only so that they can earn more and more money. Now let's discuss the wife of Bath, Chaucer's most famous female character. For wife of Bath, he says, husbands at church does she had five. That means she had five husbands and she married publicly 5 times. It may also mean that this was the public appearance of her five husbands. She might be having more affairs or relationships with other men, but at church means that she married 5 times, which everybody knows about. And then he says, bold was her face and fair and red of hue. That means she had a very bold red face. Red face represents sensuality, and boldness represents that she asserted her identity, her individuality, and she did what she wanted to do, what she always loved. Gap toothed was she, soothly for to say. That means she had a gap between her teeth, which is a sign of lust and sensuality. And this woman used to travel a lot. That means when she was traveling, definitely she used to find her next husband during her travels. And similarly, today, even this time also, she was traveling with this group of people going to Canterbury. Maybe she was looking for the next husband. So further he says, her cover chiefs full fine were of ground. That means she wears expensive clothes. That means she is having some money at her end and she is earning some money. She is a woman of her own means. She is not dependent on anyone. And finally he says, of remedies of love she knew perchance, for she could of that art the old dance. That means she is experienced in love. She knows why somebody's heart is aching, why somebody is feeling sad, because she has been in love and out of love so many times, because she has married so many times and she must be in a relationship also for multiple times. So nobody knows love and the diseases that come from love, or the heartache that comes from love, better than the wife of Bath. Further, about the wife of Bath, Chaucer says that she is dominant, she is bold, and she is very worldly. And that means she knows how to assert her choices, her authority. She speaks very openly, she is very bold. And because she is telling everything about herself and her affairs and her husband's, and she is also very worldly wise. Why? Because she has traveled a lot and she understands people. She openly challenges patriarchy. Why? Because she was somebody who was trying to live in this world on her own terms. So that means she was not being subdued by any man. She used to do what she really liked. So she was challenging the patriarchy, using marriage for her power, increasing her powers, because marriage gave her financial power and control over her husband. And Chaucer's tone is here very playful. He's not criticizing her brutally, but he's kind of mocking her and humorously describing her. He also admires her for her choices, but he's also satirizing her for her openness, her boldness. So she mixes religion with sensuality. She mixes her honesty, piety with open sexuality. She says that she is marrying, but she's not marrying for the sake of having dependency of on someone, but she's marrying because she wants to be sexually very active. She symbolizes female autonomy in a male dominated world. She embodies medieval debates about women, marriage, and the church. That's why she is an exam favorite, and it is often there in exam that wife of Bath is asked. And she remains iconic in English literature as a proto feminist figure. So it is important for you to understand the character of the wife of Bath, and I would advise you to read the entire prologue. You will really find it interesting and easy to follow after this video of mine. So do read the wife of Bath in detail, complete. So let's summarize whatever all we have understood today or read and you have heard today. In part two, in this part three, sorry, third episode, we saw the Guildsmen who are ambitious but very comic figures, like the cook. He's skilled but very flawed. Then the shipman, who is skilled but very ruthless. And then the physician, he is learned but he is greedy. And then we see the wife of Bath, who is bold and unforgettable. She is funny, she is bold, she is ambitious. Chaucer combines humor, irony, and truth in each portrait. In part 3, we will meet, in the next part, sorry, in part 4, we will meet the religious figures like the parson, the summoner, and the pardoner, where Chaucer's satire becomes even sharper. So that was all about the small group of characters who are collectively discussed as the Guildsmen by Chaucer, along with the most popular and mostly asked character of the wife of Bath. We still have a few more characters to analyze and understand, but that will be done in the next video. Till then, read, revise, and try to make a critical understanding of the prologue, and stay tuned. This is Dr. Shweta signing off.